Chapter 74. Is that all? There's worse. What could be worse? I wondered what could be worse than the high nobles fighting at the state council meeting. The trouble began when First Prince faction member Falloon Davis was promoted to finance minister, which led Second Prince faction rival Larry Crett to expose Falloon's corruption to the king. Count Davis does not suit the role of the incorruptible finance minister. Then Falloon exposed Larry's corruption, and what followed was a vicious cycle of mutual accusations. Ironically, during the process, it was revealed that many nobles from both the First and Second Prince factions were implicated in the corruption. Both parties promptly withdrew their accusations, exchanging apologies as if it were merely a joke, destroying the evidence as well. It was as if they had mocked the royal family in the name of factional fighting. Idiots. And the royal family just let this slide? What can they do? They lack power. At least it seems the king is benefiting somewhat from the competition between the two groups. It seems like not a bad move for the royal family. That is one way to see it. Upon reflection, Roger Bifrost's behavior could be interpreted in the same light. I confirmed that there were no immediate issues with the king, but it didn't exactly feel like good news. No matter what, the road ahead felt daunting. Of all things, the reasonably decent third prince is the one without power. That's the problem, Logan sighed in dismay. The current king in his youth had no heirs. As he approached the age of 40, at the noble's urging, he took several concubines, which is where the problem started. It seemed as though the heavens heard the desires of two dukes to solidify their power by producing a royal heir, as the daughters they had placed as concubines each gave birth to sons around the same time. This signaled the stirrings of future turmoil, and nearly a decade later, 19 years ago, the queen conceived past the age of 40 and gave birth to the third prince. He was a legitimate child of the queen with no external family influence. It was imaginable to anyone that his birth was not exactly celebrated. Moreover, the talents and disposition the third prince exhibited as he grew led some to believe he might be the reincarnation of the founding king. And this was in stark contrast to his hot-headed, arrogant older brothers, who alternately caused trouble yearly. No wonder rumors started that the third prince was the true heir to the throne. The king did favor the third prince, but the two dukes, the external relatives of the first and second princes, would not let him be. They found every excuse to impede his rise to power. Even the king tried to support the third prince, but there were limits to his influence. Perhaps things would have been different if the king had lived longer, but with the king's sudden death just before the third prince reached adulthood, a civil war erupted. For the third prince, the worst scenarios unfolded consecutively. The first prince was backed by his grandfather Duke Juan Douglas, a sixth circle magician. The second prince rode on the might of the largest noble in the kingdom and his grandfather, Duke Jordan Valtermine, the kingdom's youngest hero. Ultimately, the third prince, unable to compete with either, was the first on the list for purging when. By the previous king's will, should you promise to preserve the life of the third prince, I shall become the sword of the new king. With the declaration of a neutral noble, coveted by both major factions, the third prince barely managed to save his life, though he would be confined to the palace for life, never permitted outside his room. And so, through the Civil War, the first prince and Duke Juan Douglas ascended the throne, purging all opposing nobles and weakening the country to its foundation. 5 years later, when the empire waged war, they continued ruining the nation with their tyranny. Even during the war, the king exploited Ranyan recklessly, failing to protect his own lineage, and ultimately abandoning Gran as a shield while he fled. I'll never let that man become king. There was no way he could allow the history of his past life to repeat itself. Somehow he needed to twist the current flow of events. The second prince isn't much better than the first. If anyone is to become king, it must be the third prince. It was a difficult path, but one that had to be taken. He had to quickly put an end to the devastating 3-year war incited by the factions of the first and second princes. Many things had to be done to achieve both goals. Of course, he had plans in mind. It's going to be an incredibly tough journey. Yes? Never mind, you've worked hard. Wrap up things in Emporic as soon as possible and come to the Swordmaster's residence. I'll be staying there for a while. Yes? I'll let you know what to do afterward. Leaving the bewildered Philip, Logan led his entourage toward the Swordmaster's estate. Identity confirmed. Please proceed inside. Following the knight's guidance, Logan entered, and though the knights like Henderson were busy looking around, Logan did not mind. Any knight from Grandia would do the same. In fact, his past self would have done the same when pursuing a connection with Emporic. Of course, your highness. Would it not benefit the family if I and that handsome maid got along well? Could you, introduce me? Ow, my hand. It's just a joke, jest. However, Rick was, perhaps, in need of a little discipline. Not long after following the knight, someone approached from the opposite direction. A 30-something, pleasant-looking man in a knight's uniform. Upon receiving a salute from the leading knight, the man slightly bowed his head to Logan's party. "Are you Prince Logan? Please follow me. The Duke is awaiting your arrival. As for the others, you may continue with Sir Ermine." The man was someone Logan did not see in his past visit, yet Logan felt an odd familiarity as he observed the man more closely. "Ah," Logan exclaimed without realizing. "Why so surprised? Have I committed some faux pas?" "No, just I mistook you for someone I know. Could it possibly be your name is— Ah, I forgot to introduce myself. I am Louis Hyon, the adjutant to Duke Felix. Please forgive my rudeness." "Indeed." "Yes. Never mind. Thank you for guiding me." Engaging with a smooth smile, the man turned and walked ahead, leaving Logan to reflect with a nostalgic expression. Louis Hyon, as Logan remembered, was solid and stern, the hero known for the long, cross-shaped scars across his face. "Lieutenant Louis, you never spoke of it, so you hail from here." But Logan's thoughts drifted back through the vast expanse of memory, recalling a time that may well be from a past life. What good does it do for a knight who failed to protect his lord to speak of his lineage? My only remaining purpose is to dedicate my life to Grandia's independence. Are you not the same? Logan could not deny those words at that time. The leader of the Grandia Liberation Front, unlike Logan, who was consumed with vengeance, held on to ideals. He vividly remembered the last day he saw Louis. "I entrust you with this task. If I am no longer around, you're the only one knowledgeable in the ancient languages. Commit it to memory at all costs. Should the need arise, burn the book, but keep its contents in your head to pass on to someone with the gift. If that even proves impossible, then—" Logan recalled the other item that Louis had entrusted to him along with the secret texts. Wait, another item? Ugh! Prince! What's wrong? Louis, walking ahead, quickly supported Logan, whose old memories were suddenly overtaken by the presence and voice of the man before him. "Oh, are you all right?" It felt like an important memory, but as the headache dissipated, the recollection vanished like a blank slate. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Adjutant Louis. Perhaps I didn't get enough rest. You should take better care of yourself while you're young. Even though you feel fine now, it will all come back to haunt you as you age. Take the necessary precautions." In the distant future, or rather, past life, that was something he often said. Hearing the same words from a much younger Louis, Logan felt a sharp clarity return. Whatever memories they are, they're now part of a bygone time. As long as they don't repeat in this life, that's all that matters. No reason to lament, no reason to dwell. Logan let go of any lingering regrets with a light sigh and followed Louis once more, oblivious to the fluttering response of the post-corps. "We shall meet again later." "Yes." Before fully parting with Louis, a crisp voice came from beyond the door. "Aren't you coming in?" With a faint smile, Logan suppressed a chuckle and opened the door to the swordmaster's office. Creak. The first sight greeting him was a radiant, blond, middle-aged man with a beaming smile and a full-bellied noblewoman standing by his side. Both looked radiantly happy, especially the man who looked closer to middle age than 70, seemingly bursting with vitality compared to when Logan about saw him last. "It's a pleasure to see you well after so long." Logan bowed respectfully, but the first to respond was not the swordmaster, but his wife. "So you're Prince Logan. I've heard a lot from my husband. We owe you a great deal." The Duchess, with her tender and warm impression, blushed ever so slightly. I've heard she's close to 40, yet her bashful demeanor seemed as youthful as a young girl's. "It is I who am honored to meet you, madam. Indeed, you are as beautiful as I had heard. Now I understand why Master has spoken so highly of you." "Oh my, really?" Looking at her husband in disbelief, he retorted with a flushed face, "Don't start with nonsense the moment we meet. If I hadn't acted, you wouldn't have bothered to come, you heartless fellow. Come now, I would have visited regardless. Perhaps not right now, though. As the master and apprentice exchanged glares momentarily, the wife became puzzled. Then, almost in unison, they both burst into laughter. Ha ha! Truly, what was Roger's face like? You should have been there. It was priceless. Ha ha ha. Their second face-to-face meeting, an association formed through one-sided magiphone communication. A deep connection had been forged, independent of time spent together, through significant shared experiences. Anyway, I again congratulate you on your coming heir. Oh, have you not settled on the child's gender yet? Well, it doesn't matter. Boy or girl, it's the precious child who has healed our regret. We'll raise them with love. The swordmaster soothed his wife's hand, beaming contentedly. A difficult sentiment in a society that fiercely favored sons, especially for a noble in the Grandia kingdom. Yet there was genuine warmth in his smile, and his wife looked nothing but happy. This is good. The act, although meant for his own ends, had yielded unexpectedly positive results, bringing a strange sense of satisfaction. Ultimately, is everything the same? His own goal was to save his family and preserve their legacy. Fulfilling that alone would increase the likelihood that the citizens of this kingdom would be happier than in his previous life, where they were sold into slavery and wandered as refugees. A newfound perspective, the modest epiphany, involuntarily brought a grin to his face. The joyful countenance of the swordmaster and his wife seemed to whisper that Logan was on the right path and encouraged him to maintain that course. Your views are indeed unique, master. Admirable. Well, stop it with the flattery. A guy whose skills have improved rapidly but whose manners degrade as he ascends. If you truly aim for higher mastery, align your behavior with your ambition. Keep your words in check. The rush of hopeful sentiment was fleeting, as the swordmaster's subsequent advice stung a bit. It's in that vein that there's something I'd like to ask of you. Yes? By all means, tell me, madam. Our unborn child, would you name the child? Excuse me? Caught off guard, Logan's eyes widened in surprise. My wife and I have discussed this for a long time. Since you're responsible for it all, we thought you'd best to open the child's fate too. You wouldn't refuse, would you? In the culture of Grandia, the act of naming was akin to opening one's destiny. There was a belief among the people of the kingdom that a name held power over the life and fortune of the child. Because the act of naming was regarded with such significance, nobles would immediately seek distinguished individuals to name their child upon birth, even organizing a naming ceremony known as naming feast. Now they were entrusting Logan with such a crucial task, even if it was thanks to Logan that the child was to be born. In the first place, essentially it was a gift, no less, a gift that would elevate Logan's status in the social circles. Although burdensome, there was no reason to decline. Of course, Logan's grave expression brought relief to the couple's faces. Thank you. Now go and rest. I told you there's no need to come out. But it's only proper manners. When we're asking, favors ultimately lead to reciprocation. I'm clearly not much of a talker. Let's simply show it through actions. Excuse me? In this short time, how did you manage to improve so much? I'm utterly curious. Show me your skills first. Taken aback by the swordmaster's sudden challenge, Logan answered warmly, Yes. Chapter 75. Logan was eager to test his limits and see the extent of his growth, as well as the strength of the opponents he could face, a perfect sparring partner to challenge without reservation. The swordmaster, against whom his every attack was perfectly blocked and countered, served just this purpose. Logan put on full display the potential he had nurtured thus far, yet as time wore on, the once smiling swordmaster's expression grew increasingly stern. Clash! Despite the swords colliding head-on, Logan was the one sent reeling each time. After over 30 exchanges, most of which the swordmaster had gracefully evaded or precisely targeted weaknesses, he began to exert force for the first time. As Logan readied himself to rush in again, the swordmaster halted him with an upheld palm. What are you doing now? Huh? You're not telling me this is your best, are you? No, it's not. Is that so? Then let's see what your best truly looks like. Logan's expression tensed at the swordmaster's ominous tone. It was their first formal sparring since he had become an official disciple, and he didn't want to start by disappointing his master. Determined to prove himself despite his wavering confidence, Logan decided to unleash the best moves he could perform. Woom! Ha! Qua! 8 layers of golden waves surged toward the Swordmaster in synchronization with Logan's shout. And before the waves even dispersed, a beam of light streaked straight through space, a technique that had previously inflicted a serious injury on night plants of moonlight. Confident of finally seeing surprise on his master's face, Logan instead found himself face to face with the Swordmaster, a cold blade at his throat. To be struck twice and fall, is that what you intend? Snap! Cough! The Swordmaster's sword, after unleashing a feint, ruthlessly struck Logan's faltering legs. A common training sword felt like a heavy mace to him. Get up. Again! Excuse me. Again! Spurred by the terse shout, Logan reflexively stood up. His posture wavered, and his legs still shook, but the imposing aura that overcame him caused an automatic response. You don't pour out force in a mindless attack, do you? That's not your best. As the sword of vision sank to foolishness, Logan wore a dazed look. What do you mean? Show me your best swordsmanship, that's what I mean. The light brush of the sword's tip exuded an intense killing intent. Don't disappoint me further, Logan. Paling in the face of the change in the Swordmaster's demeanor, Logan gritted his teeth and raised his sword again, drawing upon his last vestiges of strength, speed, and power. But, tang! His sword, twisted by a casual slap from the Swordmaster, went flying away, crumpled like a strip of leather. This is your swordsmanship? Their voice was colder than the expression on their face, and Logan couldn't help but quiver. The kingdom's greatest swordsman, yes, I acknowledge that, but that prestige and status didn't diminish the effort he had put into his own progress. Properly, I'll show you properly. Blood oozed from the tear in his grip, and his legs struggled to even stand as the ebbing energy finally began to replenish. Filling the lacking place with stubbornness, Logan forced his body into motion and picked up another training sword from the side of the arena. Dismissing any complacent thoughts of testing limits or showing achievements, he resolved, I'll land a hit, no matter what. Setting aside the rational screams of impossibility, he adopted the most comfortable stance to optimize minimal effort for maximum effect, and visualized the path that would yield the best results. Thump. Everything, from the springing footwork to the concise swing of the sword, was executed with unprecedented cleanliness, given the absence of distractions. But, Birk! Cough! Too simple! The searing pain that erupted from his solar plexus stifled even a groan. Against near breath-stopping pain, boiling anger forced him back onto his feet. Always think ahead. A transparent intention like that is barely worthy of being called swordsmanship. The incessant harping on swordsmanship resumed. What exactly am I to do? With his emotions boiling, Logan once again mapped out the optimal path, considering the Ironblood sword path and anticipating counterattacks. His body moved exactly as imagined, yet even the most efficient strike crafted anew was effortlessly blocked, immediately allowing for a counter. Snap! But Logan, prepared this time, bore the pain and threw another strike with his next step. However, at that very moment, perk! An even more electrifying pain lacerated his side. Use your head more! Your techniques are sloppy! The tether to his reason was thinning. From then on, Logan persisted, driven solely by the desire to land even a single hit against the Swordmaster. In the midst of repeated attacks and failures, he continued adjusting his posture, unconsciously tuning into each word from the Swordmaster. After an eternity, finally. You've somewhat shed your bad habits. A comment utterly incomprehensible came with the cessation of the Swordmaster's reprimands, and Logan's scattered thoughts began to coalesce once more. Consciousness returned, accompanied primarily by an excruciating pain throbbing throughout his body. He barely understood how he had moved moments before. Logan. Ugh! And at the voice of his tormentor, despite his agony. Our meeting was more beneficial than you were initially on the receiving end. Worse than when we first met. Your swordsmanship has stagnated, perhaps even regressed. Instead of honing a brilliant gem, it feels like it's been smeared in mud. His master's scathing words sharply awakened him. What do you mean? Have you practiced your swordsmanship at all? Just how did you manage to raise your state of enlightenment? Basic principles have crumbled. Is piling on special techniques and force your idea of powerful swordsmanship? Do you think that's what makes you stronger? Recalling his recent fixation with the divine sword's secrets, a chilling realization gripped Logan's heart. Grunt, once more. Please, once again. The firm determination in Logan's eyes, though painful, urged his body to rise. I'll refine my abilities from the basics. The pulsing core of force within him felt clearer than ever. Logan fainted outside the training ground, and the gravity of his condition was such that the knights who found him immediately sought a physician. But the swordmaster stopped them. Swordsmanship is learned through the body. It will engrave itself more the harder it is. Won't he die if we leave him? The knights argued with their eyes, but the swordmaster was unyielding. Reluctantly, the knights carried the unconscious Logan away, pity in their gazes. Luis watched the whole scene unfold with an inscrutable smile before addressing the swordmaster. He seems to have taken your fancy. Wastes talent. What's to like? Despite the terse retort, a faint smile lingered on the swordmaster's lips. Still, I do like his tenacity. The belated praise caught Luis off guard.